Hello, my friends. So Thanksgiving is coming up, and if I had to guess, I would say that your calendar is probably a little bit more filled with social things than it normally is. And social situations and social events can be healing and fulfilling. They can also be draining and triggering and even damaging in some situations. So, we're going to talk about kind of a little survival guide for getting through social situations in a way that you're enjoying them and you're also able to take care of yourself. Okay, so the first suggestion I have for you is to make sure that you are setting boundaries. And if you've subscribed to my newsletter, we talked in quite a bit of detail about boundaries, I think in the September issue. So look back at that if you want to dive into the details of different types of boundaries and kind of how to go about setting them. But for this video, I just want to mention that you can think of boundaries as the distance between you and another person that allows you to love them as best as you can. So that might only need to be just a little bit of distance, just a few boundaries in place. It might need to be quite a bit of distance with lots of boundaries. It just kind of depends. But all to say, boundaries are a very healthy part of any good relationship. And it's also a sign of self-respect. So I encourage you to identify your boundaries and make sure you are communicating them. That is also very important because in most situations, this isn't always true, but in most situations, people don't mean to cross your boundaries. They just maybe don't know where the line is. So that's your responsibility to make sure that they're clear on where your boundaries are. So, kind of in the context of social situations, here are some examples of what boundary setting or communicating boundaries might look like. And I'm just going to read off these examples that I have here. So, it might be, communicating if you're visiting someone. I'm going to start my days with a solo run while I'm visiting. I just wanted to let you know that. Or in a conversation, you might need to communicate, I prefer not to talk about this particular subject if it's one that kind of crosses a boundary for you. You might need to communicate things around self-care, like, I'm going to go ahead and head out now. I like to get to bed by 10 p.m. so I feel good in the morning. Or, I'm feeling full, I'm going to pass on dessert, thank you. If you have some food pushers at your social events. Or maybe it's kind of passing up alcohol or passing up a second glass of wine or whatever it might be. And so you might say something like, alcohol makes me feel really groggy. Do you have some water or tea instead? Or I'd like to switch to water. If you could, give me a glass of that, that would be great. So boundaries are cornerstone to going into social situations, feeling good, not letting them overextend you, and kind of staying balanced and healthy. So next suggestion I have for you is to remember that what other people think about you is none of your business. So it's common for us to worry about what other people are thinking or what their opinion of us is or what they're thinking about what we just said. That's normal. But it's not good for us to get caught up in that. So we are all entitled to our own thoughts and opinions about things, and that's exactly what other people's, thoughts about you are. They're their opinions, and they are not fact. And so they're irrelevant to you, and you don't need to worry about them. What is your business is what you think of you. So I want you to stay focused on that because your thoughts are the only thoughts that you have control over. So making sure that those thoughts and feelings are positive and supportive is the best thing that you can do. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in one of the later suggestions. So remember, their thoughts about you, not your business, not your problem either. So next suggestion I have for you is to practice presence and grounding, either before and after social situations or even during social situations. And we'll talk about how you do that in just a minute. So grounding practices sounds kind of wooey, but it's, a practice in some different therapy, like psychotherapy modalities, as well as mindfulness practice. And it's really about kind of bringing yourself back into the present moment, back into your body in connection with yourself. Okay. And this is really important and powerful surrounding social situations, because when there's a lot of external stimuli, some of us are prone to getting kind of swept up in what other people are doing, what other people's opinions are, how much other people are eating, or how much they're drinking, or whatever. All of those kind of external cues start to drive our behavior before we've had any time to kind of check in with ourselves about what we're thinking, how we're feeling, what our needs are. And grounding and any kind of practice that kind of brings you back into the present is really helpful to reconnect you with your internal cues so that external stimuli doesn't carry you off. So some grounding practices that I have for you here that I find helpful. Physical movement is really helpful. And can kind of bring you back into your body and connect you with your breath and all of that. Routine is also very grounding. So if you're able to kind of stick to some semblance of a routine, even if your days are kind of wonky and different than normal, maybe you can just stick to a half-hour morning routine so you kind of start the day feeling grounded, or a bedtime routine. So that can be really helpful. Meditation and breath practice is definitely very helpful in grounding. Even just lying on the floor and putting one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly and doing some deep breathing can be really grounding and really helpful. And then I mentioned if you're kind of in the midst of a social situation and you're feeling yourself floating away and you want to kind of bring yourself back into the present, just kind of draw your attention subtly to physical sensations. So maybe that's like the sun on your face, or the clothes on your skin, or your feet on the ground. That can kind of bring you back into the present moment, bring you back into your body. So grounding is very, very helpful. The next suggestion I have for you is to make sure that you are listening to your needs. When we're around other people and their wants and needs are kind of flying around the room, we can kind of forget about our own needs and addressing our own needs. So I am here to remind you that your needs matter. I'm giving you permission to search for them, acknowledge them, and do what you can to meet them, so that you feel fulfilled and feel good. That's really, really important, and something that a lot of us kind of put on a shelf when other people are in the mix, okay? And then my last suggestion for you is to work on nurturing your self-acceptance. So as I said earlier, it's really natural to look to other people for acceptance. We're tribal creatures. We want to belong. We want to feel like we're part of the group. But in social situations, friends, around family, if that was any kind of childhood wound around acceptance or approval from someone in your family, we can kind of start to get into that old pattern of relying on other people to essentially tell us that we're worthy. And that's a really dangerous way to go about life, right? So that's really us putting our self-worth in someone else's hands. So I want you to take that back. That's yours to decide. and work on kind of your self-acceptance and your self-love and self-respect, and really cultivate that. And this is like life work. It's not something that you can kind of do on a Saturday. It's takes practice and repetition for sure, but it's so important so that when you go into a social situation, the stakes aren't so high. You're not looking to other people to tell you if you're worthy. You're really just there to have a good time and enjoy yourself and enjoy the company of others. And you don't have to worry so much about, what everyone's thinking about you or how they feel about you, or, whether or not they accept you, because you've already accepted yourself, and that's all that matters. So we'll do a whole thing on self-acceptance another time, but an easy way to kind of start this practice, I want you during this time, I think this kind of November, December time is a really great time to do this practice. I want you to start your days by listing 3 things that you love about yourself. And if you can't think of 3 things in that moment, think back in past experiences. So maybe there's an accomplishment that you're really proud of, or a really hard thing that you went through, and you want to acknowledge your resilience. So it doesn't have to be a current or an of the moment example. It can be kind of anything from past or present that you can think of. So I hope you take good care of yourselves and enjoy this social season, and make sure that you're also taking time for yourself, by yourself. So see you next time. Thank you.